ago. He's here right now. Got a bit of a reputation. You have Kasper Holten
from the. One, I hope.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Director of the Royal Opera. Where is that based? Let's start with that.
The Royal Opera is, of course, based in Covent Garden in London, but actually also in cinemas around the world where we now show our work. So you can see our work even if you're not in London.
Is there rivalry in London between you and the English National Opera?
Honestly, of course, you always have a vanity that you want your own things to be a success, but I think actually the more opera that's there, the better for all of us. In a street full of booksellers, you sell more books, and it's not really, in this world today, it's not opera house against opera house, it's opera against the rest of the world. So John Barry, who's leading E&O, and I, we talk quite frequently, and I think the better we both do, the better it's probably for all of us.
And would you say, is it a battle? Is it a dying art form?
No, on the contrary. I'm pretty sure if you look, there are more people listening to opera, going to opera, than ever before in world history. It must have something to say to modern people. People are celebrating and going to opera all over the world, and we play to 97% capacity. And our work is seen by hundreds of thousands in cinemas around the world. No, I think opera has something that actually, in a time where now I can even use my mobile phone on the plane now, I found out recently. In the opera house, it's one of the only places where you have an excuse to actually turn off your phone, be with other people, live as something happens, and take your time. It's an incredible luxury.
Mm. And when we say Royal Opera House, we think, oh my gosh, it's posh, we've got to dress up. Is it that sort of scene?
No, I mean, I think I'm wearing jeans. I could go to the opera house like this if I wanted to, no problem. I do think you should dress up a bit, as I think the people who saw us earlier in the day know, because you should celebrate. You're going to something that's going to be fantastic. You're going to have, let's say, an 80-strong band, a 70-strong chorus, you know, hundreds of people who've trained for years and years performing for you. You should make it a festive evening, but that doesn't necessarily mean dressing up. It means making sure that you enjoy and celebrate the evening. Opera is special, and you should make it special.
Do you direct as well?
I'm a stage director as well,
and
yeah.
So how does that fit into your world?
Well, I have two jobs, basically. But I'm very privileged to have those two jobs, and it kind of makes sense when you're in the office that you also sometimes get your hands dirty on the stage. I think some of the decisions you have to make in the office, maybe you know what you're talking about, because you have to then go down and live with the decisions on the stage. Directing opera for me is fantastic, because these operas are masterpieces, and making them come alive again and again, they're so open to interpretation. You can do so many different things with them. That's why they're masterpieces. They are a kind of mirror, and as we change, they change with us. Reinterpreting these operas, we can just keep doing it, and that's a fantastic thing to be doing.
Is there a formula then for a successful, celebrated show?
Yes, and I won't share it, no. If only. Listen, doing a show is like alchemy. You don't you try to prepare, you try to honestly go into it and think, this is a great way to tell the story. You don't really know how it works until the audience is there. There's a strange kind of alchemy in that, and if only I had that formula, then I would be world famous and very, very rich and very happy.
Because it's fair to say, you can have a bad night at the opera, can't you? You can have a bad night out.
Of course you can. Opera is a bit like going to a restaurant and having this incredible feast of a dinner. And of course, making all these small, you know, you need to make all these dishes, and they need to fit together, and you need to have the right wine, and, you know, so make this massive, fantastic thing where you have singing, dancing, movement, lights, theater. Of course, it can go wrong. But the point is, when it works out, it just has something so incredible. I always say, people say, they say, I love you, I love you, I love you, or I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying, and it takes them 10 minutes to sing about. And I always say, I think that's incredibly fast. To talk about love in 10 minutes, that's something we struggle with our whole lives through, or death. You know, opera spends time on what's really important in life.
This is part of European Opera Day today. What exactly is that?
I'm on the board. I'm actually the vice president of an organization called Opera Europa, which means that opera houses from all over Europe come together. And we want to celebrate, and this year it happens on the day of the Eurovision Song Contest back in my home city of Copenhagen, actually. So it's really a day of singing in many kinds of forms. But every year we have the European Opera Day, where where opera houses across Europe throw open their doors and do events for the audiences. And this year we thought in Britain we would try and do it the digital way, so we could reach even more people, not just people who are in Leeds or in Covent Garden, but people who might be in other cities, even overseas. Try to really throw open the doors. And of course it's all about the work that happens on stage. But I think for a lot of people, they don't know the years of training, the craft, the passion. I always say when you walk around Covent Garden, if we could peel away the skin of the building and you would see all the people sweating and fighting and struggling and thinking and doubting themselves. We're about to see Liz Watts preparing for the role of Talina in my production of Don Giovanni. I think a young singer struggling, full of doubts, full of honesty, full of, you know, the pressure on a person who has to go on in front of thousands of people, sing and express difficult, complex emotions. It's such an incredible thing they do, and it's such a brave thing they do, that we want to show that to the audience, and hopefully also make people who have prejudice about opera maybe think twice. I think if you haven't tried an opera, you're actually really missing out on something, not for our sake, but for your own.